Hello, everybody. I'm here today to talk to you about what happened for Rise and Fall after I showed it at Isham in SN 2018. So what happened is that Ludically we decided, Isham and me were driving Ludically at that time, and we decided that the Rise and Fall could be the first Kickstarter that Ludically would be doing. And then the COVID came in a few years after. It took time. Hisham changed also in his personal situation, professional situation, and so everything got delayed. And then the COVID came in. And in terms of development, that's when it changes things. That Isham told me that that players on Kickstarter and all they're sometimes complaining because the games don't have a solo mode, and in the times like when there's the COVID, the solo mode is very welcome. And he started to give me a challenge of designing a solo mode for Rise and Fall, which for such a game didn't seem easy at all to me. And at the beginning, I was very doubtful it was possible to do something nice or efficient or playable or whatever. And so for a few months, I chew on that challenge or thought about the problem and how to solve it. And I don't remember when exactly, but I think it was when I had the first AI card, was in Valmenier, maybe a summer in 2019 or something like that, or 20. I had the first set of cards that would create like an AI, an NPC, I called it, non-player civilization. A civilization played by an AI with cards of different levels that would perform actions like an intelligent person on the other side of the board against you. So the next step was that I designed not only a solo game but also a cooperative game, really cooperative, but without like the alpha leader player type that can come in and really tell you what to do. They can give advice, but I realized every time we played cooperative that everybody was really managing his own civilization and doing the actions the way he wanted to perform them. So trying to invent, of course, after all the base game and everything was stable, I tried to imagine what other elements could I create, what other expansions or different lands, pieces, monsters or whatever. Because in the game design process, what I forgot to talk about in the first part is that what we realized when I had the base core game mechanic and theme and all that, when we designed the land, the world, when we built it the first time, I was trying to see where this situation, where this landscape, where could we see this landscape in the world, and I couldn't find any place in the world that would represent a landscape like that with big snowy peak mountains touching island Caribbean style. So at that moment, that was very early after the first game or second game that we played with my wife, I needed to have really the location of my game and the world and all that. And when I realized that there was no place on earth that looked like that, then the game had to be located in a fantasy world. Okay, so that's why Rise and Fall is based on the fantasy world. I didn't start from, oh, I'm going to do a game on the fantasy world or what, and then create all the things. For this time, I had the game mechanics and the way I wanted to do a civilization game, but I didn't have the theme, the history, and the land where all this would happen. It's the way we build the map that guided me towards heroic fantasy, because there's no place on earth that looks like that. So that was just to explain that part, the why we have races, and then the different clans with the different races, the fishermen, the fishmen, but not fishermen, the fishmen, or the flying angels, and the doppelgangers and all that. So there's the solo mode, there's the cooperative mode, then there's all the new expansion elements or stretch goals or whatever you're going to call them, however they're going to use it with Ludically. This is up to them. Also the cost that they represent when you manufacture them also. And then also throughout all this time, we realized that there's one thing I remember. we went with my wife to a game with a guy on the French Riviera. You remember, he played only once, and it was his second game. And we wanted to play an epic game. At that time, we didn't really play a lot of epic game. Epic game is when you play in 6 trophies instead of 4, meaning you have to do all the trophies. We played in 6 trophies at 2-player. But yeah, 2-player is quite fast. And we wanted to see how long was an epic game for 3 players, especially with like not a beginner, but a guy would play his second game, only his second game. And we went to his place thinking that we would have to dedicate the whole afternoon playing this game, an epic game, 3 players of Rise and Fall in 6 trophies. And we ended up the game in what, 45 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes, I think. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was between an hour and 15 minutes. An epic game, 3-player. Come on. So that's when I started to realize that once, so the third player, the one that was playing his second game, was very smart. He was very intelligent. He cut the game right at the first game, so he played also really fast. And both Bia and me at that time, I don't know how many games we had, maybe 20, 30, 50. So that's when I realized that the dynamic of the game and the way it was built was not limiting the game in the number of players. 4 is because it's already a lot of wooden pieces to put in a game box, and because I've been a publisher with Ludically, I know how much it costs, and you have to put a limitation at some point to generate 2 more colors to go to 6 players. And then I went to 8, and now today's in this box, the blue box you were seeing manipulating in the video, previous video, I went to 10. We never played 10, but we played like a few weeks ago,
8.
We played 8 at Valmenier with 3 players that had never played. 2 of them, we didn't even explain the rules. They read the rules, the rule book of my prototype, not even the final rule book with all the nice graphic example and all that. No, my pure textual rule book. And even though we were 8 players with 3 beginners, and some of them we didn't even explain the rules, we ended a game, an epic game, because when you play 8, it's 6 trophies, in 2 hours and 15 minutes. An epic game, 8 players. So that means that the game has almost no limit in the number of players. It's just how many people can you put around the table. So I think now they're convinced, and they're going to go at least to 8 players with different sets of colors that you can buy after. If you are never 8, there's no point for you having a game for 8 players. But if you reach 7, you're going to have the choice to choose 3 new colors amongst the 4 available. So what I mean is that I'm realizing nowadays that Rise and Fall, as a matter of fact, might be the most sandbox, richful, adaptable game I've ever designed, because now it's made for solo player, for cooperative game. I'm not really into cooperative game myself, but when I play Rise and Fall cooperative, I really enjoy. I really like it, and I think it's because there's not this alpha thing. We both do our things, but we both want to win versus the AI. And we can go up to 8. It's no random. There's new story events, story cards with new stretch goal things. I don't know what they're going to use and unlock in everything that I've created that generates kind of like scenarios. So there's like, I'm close to reaching an SAGS, a scenario auto generating system, like I did for Living Planet, like I did for Earth Reborn, and for some other prototypes that I have, which means that the game is really becoming rich in possibilities and in the number of different players you can touch with it, whether they're solo players, they're competitive multiplayers, or cooperative players, or players who wants to have total control on the game and know all the elements and have no random effect on their gameplay. And that the card should be bigger, so as I showed you in the first genesis of the game video, the card were very small with the Magic the Gathering standard size. Now we made they're more like the biggest card you can find sleeves for, like the one from Dixit. And so you see all the actions and the icon, and they can be a really nice artwork on top of the card, showing really the unit in action in its universe now. So it's a lot better. The other big improvement that happened, they have increased the size of all the hexagons compared to what I had in the base game. So it takes a little bit more space on the table, but still we saw that the 8-player game, we could fit it on one kind of big table, but it fits, so there's no problem, and it's makes the game even more gorgeous and more visible, readable, and all that. And the most important and drastic change is that Isham was starting to see and have connections to do meeples in 3D glued together, and not only simple flat meeples, but painted and with details and in different 3D directions. So he was the one who started putting this idea, saying that, hey, we want Rise and Fall to have like the most deluxe, wonderful, luxurious meeple ever made nowadays. And I think after all those years of research and development and you know, hard design and 3D design and tests with the manufacturing company, they reached a point where, yeah, when we saw the 8-game player, there was 4 of the civilization were used by players using the basic color of the base game, which means the new pieces, because we just received like a month or 2 ago some full sets of the base color pieces, and so 4 players were having those ones, and the 4 others were having the colors with my old normal meeple, Carcassonne style, I would say, old meeple, and so we could really see the difference, and we were like imagining that, wow, how beautiful it will look when we're gonna have like the 8 different colors on the same huge map with such thickness 3D effect. So those new deluxe style meeple is really like a huge advancement in terms of quality and graphic beauty for the game. And then that's it. The solo game was functioning well, so I designed more and more different NPC, non-player civilization. I went to 4, and the 5th one is not very functional as this day, so let's say we have 4 very functional different AI civilization that really act totally different, like the pirates, the believers, the cliff walkers, and the barbarians. And the merchants is the one that I'm not satisfied with today, and I'm dropping them for now. Sorry, we already have a huge sandbox. So that's it for all the developments from the first idea all the way to the Kickstarter that is arriving sometime, somewhere, now in the future to